deep debt, and that is the finding of an investigation of village finances and the spending habits of beleaguered Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
Mr. Lacey is absolutely not guilty of all 9 counts. I believe he's cooperating. And if you cooperate, you have to admit your guilt first.
Tiffany Henyard, a name that's quickly becoming synonymous with controversy, is not your typical small-town mayor. Nope, she's making waves in Dolton, Illinois, and let's just say they aren't exactly positive ones. But what's really going on with this so-called super mayor? If you're curious about what's driving the growing storm around Henyard, buckle up because this story is packed with drama, betrayal, and some seriously questionable decisions.
Is there a motion to terminate Keith Freeman?
First things first. Who is Tiffany Henyard? She's the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dolton, and man, she's been living up to that title in ways most people didn't expect. She came into power back in 2021 and seemed ready to take the small town of Dolton to new heights. But the real question is, was she lifting up the town or just her own bank account? Henyard's rise to mayor might have seemed like a victory for the community, but as soon as she settled into office, things took a turn. And it wasn't just your usual small-time mayoral challenges. We're talking about wild spending sprees, over-the-top security details, and let's not forget her love for luxury. Some might say she's been living like a queen while the town of Dolton is left picking up the tab.
So that's one of the reasons I won't know when we go through our board packets. It's like, some of this stuff, it's like you don't know exactly what it's for, and then when you ask a question, there's no answer.
And honestly, the numbers don't lie. Dolton's in serious financial trouble, and fingers are pointing directly at her. Rumor has it, Henyard's tenure has been marred by lavish trips and questionable spending. Imagine this, you're the mayor of a small town, but instead of fixing potholes or improving schools, you're jet-setting across the country and living it up at high-end restaurants and hotels.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
Yeah, that's right. Word on the street is Henyard and her entourage were charging thousands to the town's credit cards, all in the name of business trips. But let's be real, most people are asking, business or pleasure? And speaking of spending, one of the juiciest details that's got everyone talking is her habit of splashing out on Amazon. Get this, in one single day, Henyard reportedly spent over $40,000 on online purchases. You heard that right, $40,000 in one day.
Who would make a one day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon? And the main thing is, what is it?
And it doesn't stop there. The receipts are piling up for all sorts of extravagant spending, from flights to high-end hotels to fancy meals at places like Ruth's Chris House. I mean, who's footing this bill? Spoiler alert, it's not Henyard, but it's not just the spending that's got people fired up. Her leadership has been called into question by just about everyone, including her own allies.
I think you should pay everybody. Is there a reason why you guys are not paying whatever that vendor is?
What was it for?
It was for shirts. That's what it's for.
Remember when you were a kid and you got in trouble for something, so you tried to shift the blame on anyone else? Well, Henyard seems to be doing a lot of that lately. She's been caught in a game of defense, pointing fingers at anyone who dares to criticize her. In fact, she's gone as far as to claim that she's the victim of a targeted political and racial attack. According to Henyard, she's being persecuted not because of her actions, but because she's a Black woman in power.
I am about to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments, there will be anything. It will just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on.
This might have been a compelling argument, but let's not forget, some of the most vocal critics of her administration are people who once stood by her side. Take Carmen Carlisle, for instance. Carlisle was one of Henyard's closest allies, but now she's breaking her silence, and what she's revealing is nothing short of shocking. Carlisle has openly accused Henyard of unethical and predatory behavior, saying that the mayor has been using her position to manipulate employees, vendors, and even residents to bolster her own influence. Talk about betrayal. Carlisle wasn't just some distant political figure throwing shade from afar. She worked alongside Henyard right in the heart of the storm. And according to Carlisle, Henyard's behavior was more than just reckless, it was downright abusive. From lavish trips to unchecked spending, Carlisle claims Henyard took advantage of her position in ways that would leave employees, people speechless. And now that Carlisle has stepped up to expose the truth, it seems like the walls are finally closing in on Henyard.
They knew what they were doing, and they thought they can get away with it.
And speaking of walls closing in, let's talk about the growing investigation surrounding her. You know things are bad when you have not one, but several probes into your finances. The town of Dolton has been sinking deeper into debt, and according to reports, it's all because of Henyard's mishandling of funds. In fact, financial reports show that the village hasn't complied with statutory financial reporting since 2022, coincidentally, the same year Henyard took office.
Hey guys, this is Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the People's Mayor and People's Supervisor.
The village of Dolton is now $3.65 million in the red. That's not a typo, 3 million, folks. And while Henyard claims she's been working hard to clean up the town, the numbers tell a different story. So what exactly has she been doing with the town's money? Well, let's just say a lot of it has gone to personal luxuries.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
Remember that Amazon spending spree I mentioned earlier? That's just the tip of the iceberg. It turns out Henyard has been using Village credit cards like her own personal piggy bank, racking up charges at retailers like Target and Walgreens. And if that weren't enough, it's been revealed that she spent over $43,000 in one single day on Amazon. Now, call me crazy, but unless she's buying the whole town of Dolton new laptops, it's hard to justify that kind of spending. It's no wonder then that her financial misdeeds have sparked a federal investigation. And who's leading the charge? None other than former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. That's right, Lightfoot, who has plenty of experience dealing with scandal, has been hired to dig deep into Henyard's finances. And from what we're hearing, it's not looking good for the self-proclaimed super mayor. Lightfoot's investigation revealed that since Henyard took office, Dolton's general fund balance has dropped from a surplus of over $5 million to a deficit of more than $3 million. Yikes.
The legal appointment, that's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure out their next steps.
But here's where it gets even juicier. Not only is Henyard facing financial scrutiny, but her security detail has also come under fire. Reports surfaced that she's been using police officers as her own personal bodyguards, pulling them off the streets to protect her, all while crime continues to rise in Dolton. The best part, she even had the officers rack up overtime, with some making more in overtime pay than their actual salary. Can you imagine? One officer, whose regular salary was around $72,000, made over $108,000 in overtime alone.
We needed those officers to be on the street fighting crime, and instead we have several officers that are riding around protecting the mayor.
But don't worry, Henyard's security detail didn't last long. According to sources, the funds for her bodyguards were frozen after the town's finances came under more scrutiny. So now it seems like Henyard will have to face the public without the cushion of a police escort. And it's not just the public that Henyard has to worry about, it's her own trustees. The very people who were once her allies are now turning against her. Just recently, trustees pushed through ordinances to limit her spending power, a clear sign that they're fed up with her antics. And Henyard, well, she's not taking it lightly. In a dramatic speech, she accused the trustees of trying to sabotage her, claiming they were halting services for the town in an effort to stop her. Talk about deflection.
Sometimes we get invoices, but those invoices lead to more questions, and sometimes we don't get questions, answers to those questions. And so it's not about clickbait, it's about just making sure the right thing is.
The tensions between Henyard and the board have reached a boiling point, and it's clear that the trust is broken beyond repair. Trustees have called for more transparency and have demanded access to financial records that have mysteriously gone missing. And as if things couldn't get worse, Henyard vetoed the board's request to open a federal investigation into her financial dealings. But the board wasn't having it, they overruled her veto, and now the investigation is moving forward. Henyard's downfall seems inevitable at this point, but she's still holding on, fighting tooth and nail to maintain her grip on power. And in typical fashion, she's been making some pretty bold moves. Take her recent attempt to reappoint Deputy Chief Lewis Lacey as the head of Dolton's police department. Lacey, by the way, was fired after being indicted on bankruptcy fraud charges. That's right, he's facing serious legal trouble. And Henyard thought it would be a good idea to bring him back into the fold. Needless to say, the trustees weren't on board with this one, and they're now seeking legal guidance to block her move.
One way that the government always does it is to go and investigate people around her, and that's what they're doing here.
The whole situation is a mess, and it's only getting worse by the day. The residents of Dolton are growing more frustrated, and the protests against Henyard are getting louder. People are tired of the corruption, the overspending, and the constant drama. One resident even went as far as to say, does she even watch her videos being shown? She's so corrupt, it's normal for her. Doesn't know right from wrong. A sixth grader would do a better job as mayor. Ouch. Another comment making the rounds, hilarious that Henyard no longer has a personal security team anymore. Funds for that were frozen, also as were all her credit cards. It seems like even her biggest critics are finding some humor in the situation, though it's clear the town's in no laughing matter. So where does this all leave Tiffany Henyard? Well, at the moment, she's still clinging to power, but the cracks in her administration are growing wider by the day. With investigations looming, trustees turning against her, and residents calling for her resignation, it's only a matter of time before the walls come crashing down. But if there's one thing we know about Henyard, it's that she's not going down without a fight.
Very appreciative to receive the information today. We have the best mayor ever. I've been here since 1993.
In fact, she's still out there speaking at public meetings, defending her actions, and insisting that she's the victim of a political witch hunt. She's been using her platform to rally support, but it's clear that fewer and fewer people are buying what she's selling. And as the pressure mounts, you have to wonder how much longer can she keep this up. And here's a final thought for you. Will Henyard's downfall serve as a warning to other politicians? Or will it just be another example of a leader who thought they were untouchable? Do you think she'll finally be held accountable? Or will she somehow find a way to cling to power even as everything crumbles around her? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay tuned because in Dolton, the drama is far from over.